Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of A Brush with Death. I'm your host, Miss Casey Hanalei, and in this series I sit down, I tell you a true crime story, and I paint you a pretty picture at the same time. Now if you love true crime and you love art and painting and all that good stuff, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll never miss one of my terrible yet weirdly inspirational stories. So before we get started, I want to introduce you to our special guest today, which is a piece that I did about 13 years ago of a friend of mine from college during one of her mission trips to Haiti. So everyone say hi to Amber. Hi, Amber. All right, so who are we talking about today? We have a little bit of a backstory with this case. So I usually don't do children's cases. I can't, physically. It makes me ill, and I'm a little bit too much of an empath, so I stick to it for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's just, I can't get away from it. But recently, somebody reared their ugly face on TikTok, and I felt compelled to do this case. So who are we talking about today? We are talking about the murder of Caylee Anthony today. Yes, Caylee Anthony was recently on TikTok spewing her garbage around, and I just need to remind everyone what a terrible, terrible waste of life this person is. So, without further ado, send some positive thoughts towards me because this is going to be a rough one, but we're going to get through it for Caylee, right? So let's get into this, guys. Hey guys, Editing Casey here. I forgot to mention in the video that the painting video for this one accidentally cut out at 16 minutes, so I'm really sorry about that. I hope you can forgive me, but it cuts out at 16 minutes and then it comes back in at the very end of the painting, so you do get to see the end, but I don't know what happened. But anyways, back to the video. Bye! So little Caylee Marie Anthony was born August 9th, 2005 to Miss Caylee Anthony. Caylee was described as a very happy, energetic, and loving little girl. She lived with her mother, Casey, and her maternal grandparents, so Casey's parents, George and Cindy Anthony, in their home in Orlando, Florida. Casey Anthony became pregnant with Caylee around the age of 19, at the age of 19, so she's still a baby herself, really, to be honest. The identity of Caylee's father remains unknown, as Casey provided very conflicting stories already. Not a good start. Casey told multiple people different stories about Caylee's father, one of the most common lies being that he was a man named Eric Baker who supposedly died in a car crash. So already not starting off on a great foot. Jasper! Shh. Trying to tell a story. There's no record of this man, Eric Baker, or an accident ever to be found. So this was completely fabricated. So although Casey was Caylee's primary caregiver, Cindy, her mother, or Caylee's grandmother, played a major role in raising Caylee. So, maybe starting off okay here. June 16th, 2008. Caylee is almost 3 years old. This is the last known sighting of Caylee alive. So according to George Anthony, Casey's father's testimony, later on, he saw Caylee and Casey leaving the house around 12:50 p.m. on June 16th. After this is when we see Casey doing all sorts of interesting things, presumably while her daughter is missing or, dead. Casey is seen around town with her boyfriend Tony. On June 20th, they attend a club called Fusion Ultra Lounge. where Caylee participates in a hot body contest. Hot body contest, Caylee? Okay. This is 4 days after Caylee is last seen alive. So again, this is probably, Caylee's probably already gone at this point. So she's, she's participating in the hot body contest. Okay. She also borrows a shovel from a neighbor, allegedly to remove bamboo roots, which is interesting because we'll see later on she abandons her car, but she's responsible enough to like take care of her parents' garden for them. I don't know, just a weird point. She then avoided her parents' calls at all costs. She was like staying with Tony somewhere, right? And she claimed that her phone was broken and that she was just working so hard that she didn't have time to get a new one or whatever and answer her parents' phone calls. So later on, we know that this was an attempt to delay telling her parents that Caylee was missing or whatever she was going to tell them at that point. June 27th, so a week later, Caylee abandons her car, which was borrowed from her parents, in a tow yard. Because it had like a flat tire or something. Like, you don't just like get the tire fixed. Like, she supposedly has a job. She has a boyfriend. Like, why isn't she being responsible and taking care of her parents' car for them? Nope, she just abandons it. Leaves it somewhere. Doesn't tell them. They get a call from like the towing company that their car is like been repossessed. She's great. She's great. Anyways, so about a month later, July 15th, 2008, this is finally when the first 911 call is made, but it's not because they find out Caylee's missing. No. So Cindy gets a call from the towing company saying that the car's been towed or whatever, and so she calls 911 and asks police to arrest Caylee for stealing the family's car. Which, like, I don't know what kind of parenting tactic this is, but I don't know, your kid is 19 years old. What else are you supposed to do? She also accused Caylee of stealing money from her and her grandparents. And at this point during the 911 call, Cindy does not mention that Caylee is missing, so I don't think she really knew that or suspected anything. This is 31 days, by the way, after Caylee is still seen alive. So she finally tracks down Caylee at a friend's house and demands to know where Caylee is at. When Cindy finally picks up the abandoned Pontiac Sunfire, which is the type of car that she had, she said that it smelled like a dead body. This is when the second 911 call is made. Cindy calls them again, this time sounding very frantic. And to quote her, she famously said, "There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car." What was Caylee's excuse? Rotten pizza. Oh, I left a pizza in the trunk and it spoiled, and that's the dead body smell that you smell. Have you guys ever had a rotten pizza in your car? Does it smell like a dead body? Does it smell like roadkill or anything close to a dead body? So one time I wanted to go on a juice cleanse and I exploded a kale juice in my car. Tried to clean it up. And the next day in the San Diego heat, oh my God, it smelled so bad. But, however, it did not smell like a dead body, guys. Oof. When pressed by the police, Caylee lied again and claimed that Caylee had been with the babysitter, Zanny the nanny, for over a month. A month? And that she had been like basically keeping Caylee hostage and she's been trying to get Caylee back from Zanny the nanny. Why didn't you tell anyone sooner, Caylee? Meanwhile, she's participating in a hot body contest, and she got a tattoo saying Bella Vita, which means beautiful life, during this time as well. So your daughter has been kidnapped by the nanny, and you're partying and getting tattoos, Casey? Okay. So July 16th, 2008, Caylee Anthony is arrested for child neglect, lying to the police, and interfering with an investigation. She falsely claims, like I said, that the nanny named Zenaida Zanny Fernandez Gonzalez kidnapped Caylee. Casey told police that Caylee had called her on the phone the day before, and she was alive and fine. It just keeps going. She just keeps lying and lying and lying. Speaking of lies, also, when they're interviewing Casey, she says that she has a job at Universal Studios as like an event planner or something. So I love these investigators. On suspicion that she's lying about the job as well, they have her show them where she works, which there's footage of this. There's like body cam footage of this, which if you haven't seen it, please look it up because it's effing ridiculous, right? So she takes them to Universal Studios. And she's like walking around. She led them through the employee entrance. She's like waving at people. She's like, hey, Bob, what's up? People are like, oh, okay. They walk through all these hallways, all while she's completely acting like she belongs here. And eventually she reaches a dead-end hallway, turns around, and says, I don't work here. I've never worked here. What kind of person? It's monstrous. Just lying like that. That is scary stuff, guys. And she doesn't just lie, right? I mean, this like blatant lie, like shocked detectives, it shocked everyone, and it ruined her credibility very, very early on in the case. So nobody is believing you, Casey. Nobody believes you now, Casey. So, yikes. July 22nd, 2008, Casey is denied bail due to inconsistencies in her story, which I don't blame them. She seems like a flight risk. And then about a month later, in August, meter reader Roy Kronk reports seeing a very suspicious bag in a wooded area near the Anthony home. But this is dismissed, and I don't really know why, like, if they thought he was suspicious or whatever. There was, like, talks that they were, like, investigating him, but, like, he honestly was just, like, a bystander that was just trying to report something suspicious that he found. So he reports this in August, and spoiler alert, this is where Caylee's remains are found, and they don't go back here for months and months and months. So he tried to do the right thing, and I'm sure tons of physical evidence was lost because they didn't act fast enough, right? So August 29th, Casey is formally charged with child neglect and providing false information. October 14th, Caylee Anthony is indicted for first-degree murder and pleads not guilty. So this is before they know that Caylee is actually dead, but they are pretty certain that she is. They do a lot of tests in the car, we'll talk about it later, but decomposition and the fact that they can't find Caylee, and every lie and avenue that Casey is putting them down is not producing Caylee at all, so they presume her, unfortunately, deceased. And like I said, the remains were reported in August, but they didn't find them and get them until December 11th, 2008. So this is when Caylee's skeletal remains are found in the same wooded area reported by Kronk months earlier. The body is wrapped in a blanket inside a laundry bag less than a mile away from the Anthony family home. This is approximately 0.4 miles away. which is about a 5-minute drive away. So she was that close the entire time, and Caylee knew where she was and still just lied, and not only lied, but the callousness and unfeeling way that Caylee went about doing this is just abhorrent. Abhorrent. Okay, so December 19th, 2008, the medical examiner rules Caylee's death a homicide. Though the exact cause is undetermined, like I said, there wasn't much left when they found Caylee. If they had gotten to her sooner in August, maybe there could have been more evidence to be gathered, but unfortunately this is all we have. We have skeletal remains. There is like a blanket in there with her, and duct tape around the skull, around her mouth, but that's it. There's nothing else. April 13th, 2009, this is when prosecutors announced that they will seek the death penalty against Caylee Anthony, which, yes, please. This is one of those cases, I know we talked about the death penalty in the last case, and my trepidation towards the death penalty, but in this case, I am 150% positive that Caylee did it. However, again, it doesn't end up how I want, so it doesn't even matter. But anyway, so they are seeking the death penalty in this case. It is not until 2 years later, in 2011, that the trial actually starts. So the trial against Caylee Anthony is set to begin May 24th, 2011. Caylee Anthony's trial begins in Orlando, Florida. Defense attorney Jose Baez claims Caylee accidentally drowned in the family's pool, and that Caylee's father, George Anthony, helped her cover it up, which is convenient, I think, right? We only have skeletal remains. We don't know how Caylee died. This is the best they can come up with, right? So June 2011, forensic evidence is presented. Air samples from Caylee's car detect human decomposition. There's also a hair found that was Caylee's, and it has a decomposition ring on it, which only happens when a body starts to decompose. And there are high levels of chloroform found in the trunk of Caylee's car. Chloroform. How did chloroform get there, Caylee? So a few things that I want to point out about the trial. So the 31 days before Caylee was reported missing, Caylee never reported Caylee missing at all. Her mother, Cindy Anthony, was the one to report Caylee gone after 31 days. When asked why she hadn't reported it, Caylee claimed that she was conducting her own investigation into her daughter's disappearance. During this time, Caylee was partying, drinking, and even getting a Bella Vita tattoo, remember, meaning a beautiful life. So if this theory that Caylee drowned, again, is a complete lie, it's a lie because of what Caylee was doing at the time. If Caylee knew that Caylee was already dead and her father helped her, cover it up, then why is Caylee trying to cover her tracks by saying that Caylee is with the nanny? Caylee is, she was conducting her own investigation. She wouldn't be conducting her own investigation if she knew that Caylee was dead in the first place. So there's another lie, right? And then the Zanny the nanny lie as well. Like, Caylee told the police that Caylee had been kidnapped by a babysitter named Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. The nanny did not exist. Caylee had completely fabricated the story, and a real woman with the same name existed, and she later sued Caylee Anthony for defamation, which I would too. Another lie, guys. Another lie, and this one does not make sense either. The defense is trying to say that Caylee drowned in a pool. Meanwhile, Caylee is telling the police while she's arrested that Zanny the nanny has her. No, she doesn't. This case is insane. This case is infuriating. I can't... Then we have the dead body smell in Caylee's car as well. We're just gonna ignore that. Like, Caylee's car was abandoned and towed in mid-June 2008. When her mother, Cindy Anthony, picked it up, she immediately called 911, telling investigators that it smelled like there was a damn body in the damn car. Forensic testing later confirmed the presence of decomposition chemicals and human hair, like I said, that was Caylee's, in the trunk of the car. So, again, like, if Caylee had drowned and her father had helped her clean, like, I don't think there would have been time for Caylee's body to decompose in Caylee's car. That doesn't make any freaking sense. It doesn't make any sense. So I thought it might be helpful for us. Like, we had a lesson in the degree charges a few episodes ago, but I thought it would be interesting to kind of go over maybe a lesson in human decomposition. Doesn't that sound fun, guys? And the rate and stages, depending on the factors of temperature, humidity, exposure to elements, and the presence of insects and scavengers. I find this stuff interesting, guys, but if you don't, skip ahead a minute or two and you can skip all this, right? So, the stages of human decomposition for you guys, for your learning pleasure. So the first stage is 0 to 2 days long. Internal breakdown begins as the cells die and enzymes start to digest tissues. Sounds yummy. Rigor mortis sets in, stiffening the body, peaking around 12 to 24 hours, and no visible major signs and changes have happened yet, but a faint, sweet smell or musty odor may begin to emit from the body. So that's stage 1. Stage 2 is the bloat stage, which is days 2 to 5. Bacteria produce gases, causing the body to swell. Skin may turn greenish blue, especially around the abdomen. A strong odor begins, known as the smell of death, due to I can do it. Putrefaction. I got it. So that is stage 2. Stage 3 is active decay, which is between 5 and 10 days. The body begins to break open, releasing fluids and gases. Maggots and insects arrive in full force, speeding up decay. Skin may slip off and soft tissues start to liquefy. So this is happening quicker than I thought, right? Especially like skin slippage, stuff like that. And again, it all depends on the environment that the body's in. Like, if they're out in the open and not exposed to water or anything, it could slow it down. If they're in water, skin slippage and stuff like that can accelerate, right? So stage 4 is advanced decay, which is 10 to 25 days. Most soft tissue is gone, leaving bones, hair, and cartilage. If in a hot, humid environment, decomposition is much faster, which is within weeks. If buried or submerged, decay slows significantly. So, thinking about poor Caylee and her body, she was probably, this is Orlando, Florida, so she was probably skeletal within a month, I'm thinking. So it didn't take very long. The last stage is dry remains. So this is a month plus. Only bones, teeth, and dried tissues remain. In exposed environment, a body can be fully skeletonized within weeks to months, depending on the conditions. So that is our lessons in the 5 stages of decomposition for everyone's edification. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Some more evidence that the prosecution found was the chloroform and computer searches from Casey. So investigators found high levels of chloroform in Casey's trunk. Someone had searched for the terms how to make chloroform, also how to kill with household chemicals, and then the last and my favorite, which by favorite I mean what the F, is neck breaking. Was she going to try to break Caylee's neck? And this was all done on the family computer when Casey was supposed to be home. And Cindy and George were at work. Who made those searches, Casey? The prosecution argued that Casey researched these topics before Caylee's disappearance. So I think so. Also, too, there was an argument like, why were you searching for chloroform, Casey? And Cindy later said that she was searching for chloroform, not chloroform, for chlorophyll, not chloroform. Chlorophyll? How to kill with household chemicals, including chlorophyll. It just makes me think of Billy Madison. Chlorophyll! No, I will not make out with you. Alright, so anyways, back to the story, the serious story, Casey. So these topics were searched on the family computer. Cindy says it was her searching for chlorophyll. I don't buy it. And then I think the worst of all, the allegations against George Anthony, Casey's father. Casey's defense team claimed that Caylee accidentally drowned in the family's pool and George Anthony helped cover it up. Not only that, but Casey also accused her father of sexually abusing her as a child. But again, no evidence was ever presented to support this. This is just Casey spewing whatever she can to get out of the mess that she has made for herself. And I don't think there's no, again, like, you know, not victim blaming or anything. If it did happen, okay, but like that still doesn't excuse murder, Casey. Anyways, George was rightfully devastated by these accusations, and so was her mother, Cindy. But, you know, they're doing everything they can to get Casey out of this, so whatever the prosecution wants to do, I guess. There was also reports that Caylee Anthony and her lawyer, Jose Baez, were involved. Sexually involved. Rumors circulated that Casey had an inappropriate relationship with her attorney, and a private investigator, Dominic Casey, later claimed in legal documents that Caylee Anthony traded sex for legal services. Baez denied the allegations and no direct evidence was ever confirmed, but there was like reports that, and I think it's from Dominic, that he went to the office, Jose Baez's office, to, I don't know, like ask some questions or get some answers or whatever, and he saw a naked Caylee Anthony running out of the room. Which, again, we have one eyewitness of that, but who do I believe? Not Caylee Anthony. So, do with that as you will, but I don't think Casey is a very good person at this point, right? So, one of the last things I'll mention is the notorious party photos and also the jailhouse calls. So, after Caylee was gone, Casey was seen partying in nightclubs, entering a hot body contest, like we said before, and acting just carefree, right? So if she had drowned in a pool, Caylee was out partying knowing that her daughter was dead. Either way, if she's missing or dead, Caylee, what the F are you doing? Your daughter, your 2-year-old baby. And then there's the jailhouse calls, right? She showed little to no concern for her missing daughter and was more focused on herself than anything else, right? And, you know, when her parents went to call her, you know, everything's recorded, right? So when her parents went to visit her in jail and they're talking to her over the little phone booth thing, you know, they're asking her questions about Caylee and stuff, and she is just totally cannot be bothered by the questions about Caylee, and she keeps redirecting the conversation to herself. Number 1, Caylee Anthony. Shoot, man. June 23rd, 2011, this is when the defense rests, suggesting that Caylee's death was accidental and Caylee was pressured into lying from her father, George Anthony. So the jury is debating, right? And July 5th, 2011, Caylee Anthony is acquitted of first-degree murder, manslaughter, and child abuse. She's only found guilty of 4 counts of lying to law enforcement. This verdict was absolutely devastating. And of course, I'm going to make it about myself, right? So I remember I was very invested in this case when it came out. I was actually interning during college break at a company near my home. And me and my supervisor, Dana, hi Dana, were just trying to get updates of when the verdict was going to be read. And I remember crying that Caylee Anthony was acquitted of murdering her 2-year-old daughter. And I'm still devastated. And I think everyone else is. People are angry. This is such an obvious guilty verdict, and what happened? Some of the jurors were questioned later, like, why did you acquit Caylee? And they said, well, I didn't think she was not guilty, but there wasn't enough evidence for me to sentence her to death. Which, what other evidence did you need? What other evidence did you need, guys? It's just heartbreaking, and we'll get to it. I have some hopefully uplifting stuff to tell you guys later on, but I just want to sit in this moment right now and just, man. So since Caylee was acquitted, Caylee is sentenced to 4 years, but is released on July 17th due to time served. So she is out free. So in 2013, Caylee Anthony files for bankruptcy due to legal debts, which I thought she paid those off with her butt. Sorry. 2017, she gives an interview with the Associated Press stating that she doesn't know what happened to Caylee. Girl, just bye. Just leave. Just leave. Nobody wants to hear from you. 2022, Caylee participates in a Peacock documentary, Caylee Anthony, Where the Truth Lies, which, where does it lie, Caylee? She repeats the claims that her father was involved in Caylee's death. Caylee Anthony's relationship with her parents, George and Cindy Anthony, has been estranged for several years. I was really curious to see where that was at, if they are still defending Caylee, which I don't think George ever did defend Caylee. I think Cindy tried with that whole chlorophyll thing. But, so in 2022, Casey accused her father again of being involved with the death, and the alleged past abuse came up again, which George has always vehemently denied. During the 2011 trial, Casey's defense team accused George of sexually abusing Casey from 8 to 12 years old. He always denied this, and in 2011 interview with Dr. Phil, Cindy also expressed disbelief over these allegations, stating that she couldn't believe her husband would do such things, and she's the person that would know him the best. Now, without being said, obviously there are cases out there where people do horrible things and the people closest around them do not know that they did those things. But again, there's no evidence, there's no evidence against George. Anyway, so throughout these events, Cindy has stood by her husband, thank goodness, indicating that she does not believe the abuse allegations. And there's been no reconciliation between Casey and her parents that I've seen or that I could find. Cindy Anthony mentions that she hasn't seen Casey physically since 2016, which is going on almost 10 years. And their interactions have been very limited. So yeah, Caylee wasn't the only victim in Casey's wake. Her parents were too, and yeah, it's just really, really sad. Anyways, so the reason why I'm doing this case is because March 1st, 2025, so just a few weeks ago, Caylee Anthony posted her first video on TikTok introducing her new role, stating that she was an advocate for herself, her late daughter Caylee, and to offer resources to individuals navigating the legal system. Wow. In her TikTok video, Caylee described herself as a legal advocate and a researcher and a supporter of the LGBTQ community, and women's rights. We don't want you. We don't want you. Even I think any organization would see Caylee Anthony as an advocate to be bad press. Bad press. She expressed a desire to use her platform to provide tools and resources to those in need. However, her return to public eye has been met with significant backlash. Yes, get her, guys. Many viewers criticized her attempt to rebrand, with some urging her to retreat from the public sphere, which, yes. Following the negative response, Caylee's social media accounts, including her TikTok, were deactivated, which, thank God. And what kind of... She has to be one of those people that can, lie and also believe her own lie, right? Because how can you live with yourself? How can you sleep with just barfing all of this disgusting lies and just a complete fake life? I don't understand how that works unless you are... There might be some mental illness there, sure. And she believes it, guys. She believes her own lie. She believes she is completely innocent. And even if she did kill Caylee, she probably justified it in her own mind already. And there's no way that anyone can convince her otherwise that it was the wrong decision, right? One thing I did want to ask, and I don't want to be, divisive, but, is anyone else surprised that she's not, no one's tried to, hurt her yet? You know, no one's tried anything? There's so many people so angry with Caylee Anthony. I'm not saying go out and do anything, guys. Do not do that. But, is anyone else shocked? It's been how long? Over 15 years? And she's No one's tried anything? Okay, well, see how long that lasts. Not a threat. I'm not threatening anyone. Just saying. Let's get off of Casey for a little bit. I don't want this to be all about Casey. She is a nightmare walking around in human form. Let's talk about Caylee for a little bit. So Caylee's case really captivated the nation and worldwide, I think, leading to a very intense media coverage, public outrage, and even legislative efforts that we'll get into in just a minute. My thoughts on it are, I was really impacted by the case, and I think once it became national and worldwide news, I think she really became the world's little girl at that point. Like, I felt like she was my own, and I know that a lot of other people feel that way too, and are just heartbroken still over the loss of Caylee and the injustice that we saw with her case and her mother and just everything that happened afterwards. So, but one thing good did come out of it, which was Caylee's Law. So Caylee's Law is a proposed and enacted law in several U.S. states that makes it a felony for a parent or legal guardian to fail to report a missing child within a specified period, usually 24 to 48 hours, and fail to report a child's death to authorities. So, okay. After Casey's acquittal, public outrage led to the petition with over 1.2 million signatures. That's how many people are outraged, guys. Calling for legal reforms. So a national version of Caylee's Law was introduced into Congress, but was not passed at federal level. However, state-level laws, many states including Florida, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, passed their own version of the law with varying details on penalties and reporting timeframes. It varies by state, but violations can result in felony charges, fines, and prison sentences if a parent or guardian fails to report a missing child within the required time. So at least something came out of this, right? And, murder never has a happy ending, right? But yeah, at least something good came out of Caylee's memory. So despite the tragic circumstances of Caylee's death, she's remembered as a very bright and innocent child whose life was cut far too short. Caylee would have been 20 years old this year, guys. 20 years old. What would she have been doing at 20 years old, I wonder? She's in a better place now. So, you might be feeling very heavy after this case. I say it all the time, like, these cases are never easy to put together, but this one in particular, involving a child's death, it's just really, really rough. But I do have a really good quote, I think, that hopefully will inspire you and give you hope. So, you might recognize this one. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Martin Luther King Jr. So, many believe that despite Casey's acquittal, truth and justice eventually will prevail in the long run. So I believe in karma or God's, judgment or whatever you want to call it, guys. Like, it's coming for Caylee Anthony in this life or the next. It is coming. So just know that justice will prevail eventually, and Caylee is in a better place now, and she's free of pain and free of her mother and free of anyone that would have held her back. And that's what I'm going to cling on to. That's what I'm going to hold on to. Justice will prevail eventually. It may take a long time. You know, there are people in this world that seem to be so evil and get everything that they want, but it's not gonna last, guys. It's not gonna last. Just be happy in your life, treat people with kindness, and that's all you can do, right? That's all you can do. All right, so with that being said, let me show you the finished piece. Oh, it's beautiful. So this one was a little tricky to pick out. Caylee was found in a wooded area in Orlando, Florida, and one of the things I really love about Orlando is all of the beautiful oak trees down there and the Spanish moss and stuff. So I wanted to paint something beautiful that reminded me of Caylee, and I hope that, you know, Kaylee's looking down on us right now and she likes it. And, you know, I imagine her at peace and watching the sunset. Alright. Alright, guys, well, you probably didn't enjoy that. I'm sorry. Maybe you did, I don't know. It was a really hard one to get through. I had to cut a lot of times just to like cry a little bit, but I did get through it, so go me. But please go out, be good people, don't hurt anyone, follow your dreams, and I hope I see you in the next one, guys. I'm Casey Hanalei. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one if you subscribe. So, bye, guys. I love you. Dude, Jasper, I'm trying to film.